Hello and welcome back to Generation News. This is your host, American Ben, reporting on the ongoing investigation into the explosion at the Sanctuary, Mos Espa's most famous cantina. Today, we delve into the Cantina'S history and its importance in Mos Espan society. Unfortunately, there's a paucity of information recorded about Tatooinean history in general, and thus, there's next to nothing known about the Sanctuary as far as official records go. However, thanks to our people on the ground, we've been able to compile a brief oral history of the Cantina. Of course, because we're relying on word of mouth, including droids, we cannot aver any information stated in this video to be incontrovertible. This is thus the stuff that will one day be deemed of legend. But spoken as it is from the people themselves, it should carry a certain weight that even Imperial fact books can't compete with. If you've been following the hit series, The Book of Boba Fett, which documents the eponymous Mandalorian bounty hunter's rise to power on Tatooine during the New Republic era, and his ensuing exploits in Mos Espa after non-consensually inheriting the daimyo-ship over the city, then you've probably been privy to the innards of the cantina at question in this video. Prior to its destruction via pike-planted bomb, why was this cantina so important? Why was it basically the one locale within the city we really got to experience before the show said, f it, let's just do Mandalorian Season 3? Well, insiders tell us that the Sanctuary was more than meets the eye. People might have gone there for food and drink, but they hardly ever went there for only food and drink. No, bar patrons were usually seeking a bit more. As longtime Mos Espa resident Eleanor Danza told us, "Best drink in town? Nah." You get the best drink at one of the street cafes. Akim's Munch, maybe. They have the gritty stuff. But if you wanted a quality mix of quaff and secrecy, you went to the Sanctuary, where, dark things tended to, pass around. The Sanctuary wasn't just the average bar and club. It was a nexus of power and intrigue within the city. If Boba's palace, the former abode of Jabba the Hutt, was the brain of Mos Espa, then the Sanctuary was its ears, and one may thus presume that the Pikes who attacked it didn't want anyone listening, or perhaps they were just trying to send a message, one that cried loudly of a reverence for the city's hierarchy of power. As Bibrick Dantoon, reporter for the Mos Espa Star, told us, "This explosion won't make galaxy-wide headlines, but it is big news. That cantina was a sort of extrajudicial black market domain. Even the Imperial remnants that were hanging around Mos Espa at the dawn of the New Republic wouldn't mess with it. Anyone and everyone of significance used it for something, whether themselves or by proxy. It was a safe place to facilitate delicate conversations, find out information, or for Imperials, it was simply a spot to have a drink on duty without fear of reprisal. There were actually fights in the bar all the time. Black Chrysanthemum didn't just rip one Trandoshan to shreds in there on the back end of a bad bender, but a full-on terrorist attack? No way. No one would bring down that bar. It was too useful to anyone who would be willing to commit such an act. The Sanctuary could almost be perceived as a political establishment, and destroying it didn't only constitute an act of terror on a popular place of business. It was an action, rather, that carried with it great implications for power dynamics in the city. Viewers of the Book of Boba Fett probably wondered why one of Boba's first acts as daimyo was to visit the Sanctuary and introduce himself to Garsa Fwip, the Twi'lek owner of the cantina. He wasn't there to drink, after all. He was there to let Fwip know that her business was in good hands under his rule. Fett didn't just choose a cantina at random. The Sanctuary was the information hub of Mos Espa. Within its walls, hatchet plots of the city's most powerful denizens passed from ear to ear. Thus, Fett paid the cantina a visit to inform its purveyor that he was now assuming his rightful place as supreme beneficiary of its secrets. With his visit to the cantina and proclamation to Garsa Fwip that her business would continue to thrive under his watch, he was in effect saying to her, "Keep me in the loop." And knowing her proper duties, she committed her cantina and the secrets within to him. Former Sanctuary bartender Jimbot Rowdy told us the following.
Garza used to inform Jabba about local schemes to usurp his power. It seemed like the two had a history. Garza never spoke of her past, but rumor had it she started out in Jabba's palace, actually. One of the many Twilight captives living there, and amidst the Hutt's inner circle she sort of learned how to deal with various nefarious characters. She learned how criminals operate, what they want, how they think, how to connect with them. I'm not sure how she acquired the means to purchase the cantina. I have my suspicions there. But given her connections, once she took over, it naturally became a place for the familiar slime of the city to gather and discuss their plans.
Privy to such sensitive conversations, Garza Fwip gained an intimate knowledge of the criminal empire that existed not so covertly beneath Mos Espa's outward hustle and bustle. While certainly the sanctuary was far from the only place in Mos Espa where sensitive information was exchanged, it was the most reliable establishment for procuring intelligence. It was hard to find someone to trust in Mos Espa, given the ubiquity of sinister characters in the city, and so, by being true to her word and mostly remaining above the fray as she did, Garza Fwip was able to establish herself as a trustworthy source of information among the city's power players, especially given the established quid pro quo between the cantina and the palace of the daimyo. Even if another party had the answers one was seeking, an inquiring soul could still be sent to Garza to find what they were looking for. She was seen as a neutral source, save for her loyalty to the daimyo, and she was believed to be someone who could reliably corroborate claims and provide alibis. In this way, the sanctuary became a center of mediation among the denizens of Mos Espa and its surrounding territories. This is why we see Mok Shai's, mayor of Mos Espa, send Boba Fett to the sanctuary in order to discover the source of his would-be assassins. The mayor probably knew that the Hutt twins were responsible for the attempt on Fett's life, but he also knew that Fett would be unlikely to believe his denial. And so, as was standard practice for any political actor being accused of depraved acts in the city, he called on the sanctuary to corroborate his innocence.
There was a deep sense of mistrust. So much suspicion among the operative powers and important players in Mos Espa that they didn't even much try to persuade each other of their honest intentions when engaging in business or other negotiations. They'd often just point their intended interlocutors of any sort the way of the sanctuary, where Garza Fwip could corroborate their claims or offer her confidence in their character so that business could proceed without further hindrance. Actually, if a party to negotiation didn't at some point suggest seeking more information at the sanctuary, there was reason to be suspicious. It simply became good form to use the cantina as a sort of underworld notary. If the owner of the sanctuary signed off on someone, business could proceed, or accusations of impropriety and iniquitous action could be dropped.
Bibrik Dantoon, the Mos Espa star. Of course, not everyone was held to the same standard. One could not trust the bar to offer the lowdown on the daimyo or happenings in the palace because, above all, the cantina was subservient to the daimyo. And at no time was this more true than during the reign of Jabba the Hutt.
In the time of Jabba the Hutt, the cantina, in truth, operated as a sort of auxiliary to the Hutt's palace. This wasn't as true during Bib's reign, but in general, information coming out of the cantina was good so long as it wasn't about the daimyo. At times, whispers passing through the bar would even be amended to the satisfaction of the Hutts for the sake of their reputation.
Jimba Rowdy. As the powerful players in Mos Espa knew, if there was one thing you didn't go to the sanctuary to do, it was to ask questions about Jabba the Hutt, or any daimyo, because the instance of such an inquisition would surely be relayed back to the palace before long, and consequences would ensue. Now, the sanctuary wasn't only a hub through which dark secrets passed. Garsa Fwip had good reason to thrust herself into such a prominent position in Mos Espa rather than keep a low profile. Tatooine, as with most other planets in the galaxy, was not a safe place for Twi'leks, and by securing such a position of power and perpetuating the institutionalization of the sanctuary as a de facto congressional body or meeting house for power players, she also empowered Twi'leks on the planet. The Twi'lek workers in her employ weren't living the easy life, but they were at least protected from the brutality that their brethren would have often been vulnerable to beyond its walls.
The sanctuary was a place where the Twi'leks were able to develop a bit of a secret community. They gathered round that space. In its shadows, a Twi'lek underground emerged, and within its depths, Twi'leks would pass words to each other, information pertinent to their community. They would conspire to subvert actors on the planet who threatened Twi'lek livelihood. There were even instances in which they were able to save Twi'leks by hiding them within the confines of the cantina, where certain nefarious actors wouldn't dare cause a scene. Bibrick Dantoon.
However, despite its prominence in Mos Espan culture and its value to the preeminent actors therein, there was yet one problem that threatened at all times to bring the sanctuary down. That is, there was no serious attempt to secure the cantina from threats. It operated on an unofficial code to which all parties frequenting the bar consented. It was a neutral ground by tacit agreement only.
How the hell anyone was going to secure that place is beyond me. Everyone walking in there was dangerous, even the droids. Everyone had weapons stashed all over their person, so confiscating weapons from patrons wasn't going to do much either. The Pike Syndicate goons who did the deed weren't the first patrons to bring in a suspicious package with them, so while I'd imagine due to the recent events on the planet, seeing Pikes in the bar must have been a bit unsettling, it couldn't reasonably be cause to take immediate action.
Bibrick Dantoon. The fact of the matter is, no one expected an attack on the cantina, but perhaps this was a bit foolish, as it was largely unsecured and a prime target for actors looking to inhibit the information flow in Mos Espa and terrorize its population, given its iconic status in the city.
Just unspeakable. The sanctuary was a place everyone thought would be around forever, whether the daimyo fell or not, whether Hutts held the palace or not. The sanctuary was the one place nobody would touch, nobody. There was an unspoken truce protecting that place, and the Pikes, I don't know, they're just madmen. And the repercussions for what they did, well, I don't want to find myself around these parts when the bill for that mess comes through. I'd even rather be in the most Pelgo territories.
Eleanor Dancer. The sanctuary was not your average cantina. It was the life force of Mos Espa's underworld, and the path to power ran right through it in all directions. The explosion that decimated it was an act that shook the city to its core, but given the repercussions that are likely to ensue the purposeful destruction of a city landmark and an establishment where the powerful laid their hats, it'd be no bold claim to assert that the story of the sanctuary is far from over. And that's our report on the sanctuary and the explosion that brought it down. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give this video a big thumbs up. Comment down below, continue the conversation. Remember to subscribe to this channel and hit that damn notification bell so you don't miss a damn thing. For now, my name is American Ben, reporting live for Generation News. I'll catch you next time. Peace.